Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you're having a phenomenal day. Let's take another look here again at AVAX, see what's going on. Apologize for the lack of coverage here lately. Have been on the distracted side with just getting a lot of extra analysis done. Been a few more priorities, if you will. So we'll talk about AVAX, see what the potential is here, and I appreciate you again always hitting that like button, commenting below. Does help grow the channel, gets us in front of more people and less people destroyed by Moon Boys. So please, again, you're doing the world a better thing by hitting that like button. And if you want to comment below, love to hear your thoughts. Let's talk a little bit about, first of all, the back and liquidation levels first. And then we'll go ahead and talk a little bit more about the price action. Because, again, we had this pretty significant fall from grace from that $50 range to that low 30s. And at this point here, the question is it going to continue back higher, or are we going to reject out? Truth is, we're coming into a resistance range, and it's generally best to wait for that level to be hit first before you consider a trade. But again, I'm always going to recommend best practice. I'm never going to tell you to FOMO into a trade just because I feel emotional about a coin. Any trader that shares emotional distress with you, you shouldn't be following them. Again, just some friendly advice. I'm not perfect by any stretch, but I look at everything abstractly without emotion. I try to look at the charts and help understand, what's the probabilities of success in either direction right now. Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about that. Thanks again so much for being an amazing part of my life. Before we get started, I really appreciate you. Let's just put it that way. Simple as that. We're coming up on our 4-year anniversary for Crypto Cash, the channel. I've been trading for over 20 years, but still, it's been an awesome experience. So thank you so much. Okay. So AVAX, $38. We see a pretty heavy concentration liquidation. Oftentimes these levels will be swept, mainly because, not just because they're resistance ranges, but oftentimes market makers will set a lot of small limit orders, keep pushing the price action at that rate, and then once that level gets hit, they sell and turn it right back around. Okay, they do that specifically because they have the freedom to be able to move the market how they see fit once these areas have been swept. So again, liquidation, it seems kind of weird, but it is a very real thing, so it's important you pay attention to that. Either way, $38 is that next area. A lot of times I will set profit targets right within those heavy concentrations of liquidation because the odds of this level getting hit is pretty high, especially with Bitcoin kind of breaking moderately bullish on smaller time frames, looking pretty good. I think AVAX will soon follow suit. Okay, so just know that that exists. $38 is that heaviest concentration between 38 and roughly 39. You could even round up and say 41. Okay, so 38 to 41 is that little range there that we'll probably see retested. We see a lot more liquidation delta to the long side now. So this basically implies more people using leverage to the upside than the downside. What does that tell us? Well, it tells us that the trend is upwards and the trend is generally your friend, and you're going to want to trade in that direction. You don't necessarily have to do this all the time. This isn't like the guarantee of where it's going to go. It could turn around at any moment, but the likelihood of further upside is higher based on the fact that people are taking more longs than shorts, right? If we take a look at open interest, let's go ahead and see if we can find some good easy areas to identify. We can see most of the open interest, minus $38. Big surprise, that's right where liquidation is at. We can see a lot of entries here at about 35 to 36. So most people are in the green, even those who took longs at 33 to 34. All right, so congrats to anyone who is in a long, of course. Don't forget to secure profits, trying to get super greedy. But again, at this point right now, it's one of those weird situations where we've crossed a couple of thresholds, but we're not quite breaking truly bullish. And let me explain what I mean by that. Because again, daily time frame is a good reflection of the overall trend. And right now, the trend is still down because we're under 50 on the RSI and specifically 20. So taking a long into 20 on the RSI doesn't give me a vote of confidence. Okay, the main reason why is because that just kind of the overall trend is still moving down. Until we prove that we can break this downtrend, why take a long into it? Why be a breakout trader? Why take a long at resistance or a short at support? It doesn't make a ton of sense, right? The important thing is to wait for those areas to be bullishly or bearishly backtested depending on the direction you're heading, okay? I'll explain more about that in a minute. The truth here, though, is the daily time frame looks terrible. Money flow index is high. I'll admit that. That's positive. We got more money flowing in the last 14 days than the previous 14. That's beneficial. But being under 50 in the RSI here, not helpful at all. So we can check the daily time frame off the list that is mostly bearish. Okay, majority of altcoins are going to look like that though. And keep in mind, it's not a reason not to take a trade. It just tells us and helps us understand that we're in a position where taking a long is inherently more risky. Right? That's the general consensus. Take a look here though on the 4-hour time frame. We also have 3 out of 4 moving averages above the price action, generally not favorable. But again, being above the 20 is that initial trend setter, kind of letting us know that we're tentatively breaking this descending trend line. and the likelihood of further upside is slightly higher, okay? So again, we have a slightly higher inclination for the price to go up now that we've broken that trend line and we're over the 20-day SMA. That's usually a favorable sign, something I like to look for. I also look for being above 50 in the RSI, which seems indicative here at this point based on the price action breaking through that. So you can see this previous rejection there. Now we've broken through. Basically a very ugly cup and handle on the RSI. I'm stretching, by the way. You don't look at the cup and handle patterns on RSIs. But generally speaking, we retest that level and we've broken it, okay? For the moment. Once more, that could change, but for the moment, we are bullishly converging here on the MACD, stochastic swinging up. There's a lot of reasons why the price should continue higher, but if we zoom out here, we look at our local point of control. Ever since we've been in this range, mid-December, about a month's worth of trading, we can see the most amount of volume is at $36.79. So round number, $37. $37 is that key level resistance that we need to be mindful of, okay? So even though we do have a nice little support range down here, we got to recognize here that we've got a pretty solid resistance here at the current price point or higher. So unless we can close above $37/$38, it doesn't make a ton of sense to take a long into that, right? Regardless of the momentum that we have and the Bitcoin's performing well, most altcoins are still on a razor's edge and they pull back pretty hard with Bitcoin pulling back just a little. So until that dynamic changes, we got to respect it, right? The good news is the hourly time frame is confirming a bullish breakout. Granted, most altcoins are exuding the same behavior, right? Lagging spans free and clear, good stuff. Conversion line over the baseline, we're above the cloud. A lot of reasons why taking a long position should be more confident, or you have more confidence, but we got to recognize though, hourly time frame looks extremely bullish. 4-hour time frame is still undecided. We're breaking into that resistance range, that point of control at 37. The daily time frame is truly abysmal, okay? So you add that all together, that's kind of like a not so great situation, right? So why get crazy super bullish on the hourly time frame? Even though it does exude those behaviors, it is albeit overextended here. We're getting up to our second overextension. While that isn't a firm representation of what's really going on, the smaller the time frame, the less substantial the continuation is, right? Until we have a good confirming factors in the 4-hour time frame, it doesn't make a ton of sense to long what feels like the top, right? Until we break through this little resistance here, until we have something like this here, this is what I'm going to be looking for. This is where I like to take entry, okay? When this resistance level has been retested as a support and we've broken through some pretty important SMAs and or RSIs in the 4-hour time frame. We're not there yet. Again, we're above the 20. Cool, awesome. That's just a little premature. I want to be over the 50 before I see any kind of breakout here. So once more, I think if we can close at 37 or higher sometime today, the likelihood of further upside makes sense. We cannot close above that. Likelihood of further downside is also sensible too, right? We've seen a lot of fake outs in the market. Try not to FOMO in too hard. So the important strategy here in situations like this is to average into your position, okay? Now I do this all the time with my community. Every single trade that I send out will have multiple entry targets, and I do that for my members to be able to find good entries, ones that they prefer based on their risk tolerance, okay? You don't have to necessarily use all of them. You don't have to average in all the time, but if you're just, you want to get some skin in the game here, you feel like it's going to break out, feel free to take, a small position with realistic leverage, which should be 5x or lower, by the way. And then, maybe if the price pulls back just a little bit, you can consider adding to your position. Or if the price breaks out and comes back down to retest, add to your position after you get that confirmation, right? That's just kind of how you should be structuring your trades. You should not be taking, 100% of your position right now at resistance, because that's just a really dumb thing to do, okay? So just some friendly advice after, 20 plus years of trading, I can tell you, I've seen it all. I have people coming to my community asking me to fix their portfolio. While I can't do that, my signals will give you a significant advantage, right? So truth is, it's never perfect, but we took some nice profit here on our Bitcoin short from 95.4 to 89,000. And now we're in a Bitcoin long at about roughly the same entry, about the 95,000 range. So again, different strategies for different scenarios. We also have a long with Dogecoin too. That's a conversation for another day. Feel free to check that video out. But I just kind of, I want to make sure you're in a good situation. So just be cautious and careful in how you are trading right now. Develop a good risk tolerance. That's the key and the foundation of being a good trader. It's half the trouble. All this stuff that I'm showing you here, this is actually easy over time. The hard thing is to be emotionally stable enough to be able to sustain, swings and flows, so to speak. And in that sense, it has to be a good risk tolerance that works best for you and your personality. All right. Anyways, I talk about that in my trading academy, so make sure to check it out. CryptoCash.tech if you're curious. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll post our playout chart here on our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. It's available here for you at all times. Feel free to check that out if you want to see our results from last month. Pretty good. Future reference this month's been a little bit slower because there's been some really, really bad trading conditions. So I would not, just a heads up on that. Taking things kind of slow and steady, but it's important to do that sometimes to pump the brakes and not overtrade. Cool. All right. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.